today we are here with Quality Living. I am Amanda, and the name of this show is Quality Living. We amplify all types of different techniques for all ages for improving our quality of living. Many of our interviewers and presentations are with a multitude of businesses. We have teachers, doctors, massage therapists, sports enthusiasts, acupuncturists, students, chiropractors, nutritionalists, dancers, gardeners, musicians, and many more. Today, we have a really fun guest on our show here in the studio. Would you like to introduce yourself, Ken, or shall I tell them all about you?
Well, I'm Ken Dobberpuhl. I have lived in Brookings for about 5 years, and I've been involved in the community on a number of levels, teaching adult fitness classes, Better Bones and Balance out at the college here. I write an article each month for the Insider publication, which is a community paper, and I play a little bit of music for art walks and open mics.
That is quite a plethora of activities. When you say you write for the Insider, that's a newspaper, and what is the topic, or how do they find that?
Well, it usually centers around health and fitness, or sometimes whatever the muse tells me to write about. Mm-hmm. So they give me free reign. So it's kind of fun to just write what's on my mind. But a lot of it's around aging, healthy, active, healthy aging. That's sort of one of my central themes, I guess.
Beautiful. And that is something that we all, it interests me greatly. And many of our people here in the community. How about with health and wellness? They all tie into the idea of, many would say, quality. So how would you, what does quality mean to you?
As in quality in our way of life and so forth, or the quality of life?
Right.
Well, to me, I guess that's it's an interesting question, because I think our society is very quantity obsessed with more of this, more of that. And we tend to measure things in speed or amount of weight lifted, or, a lot of other metrics that are about quantity. And so to me, the idea of quality should kind of transcend into almost every aspect of our life, whether it's if you're going to spend time doing something, do it with a degree of quality and consciousness. So whether it's a movement practice that you do daily, the food choices you make, having quality food as opposed to just getting a good deal and a pile of stuff on your plate. So kind of along those lines, I think quality is something that more of us could benefit from being mindful of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mindful is quite an energy in itself that comes from experience and acknowledgement of when we have too much on our plate that's just a pile of stuff, and how it affects us, versus having that quality taste and energy that's really feeding our body and our emotions and our intelligence, versus just filling us, fueling us.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There is a lot to the health world and the wellness world and the physical fitness aspect. How do you stay active?
Well, I try to move as much as I can every day. I mean, that's really, when you look at a lot of these so-called blue zones, or places where people tend to live healthier longer, not just chronologically chalking up years, but actually having a good quality of life well into their 90s and 100. Movement is one of the central themes that shows up no matter where it is in the world. They tend to walk more, they sit less, and also the connections they have in their daily life. They tend to interact with members of their community, whether it's going shopping daily for food, playing cards with their buddies, or whatever. They're connecting with one another. So those are kind of two things I think we could try to emphasize more in our culture, is true connection and moving, especially in nature. We do so much. There's so much that we do is artificial.
Mm-hmm.
Like treadmills and things like that have their purpose or a place. But I think more people would be better served in the terms of how it would affect the quality of their movement practice, and therefore, by extension, the quality of their life, if they were actually out in nature, walking, paddling a kayak, whatever their thing is.
Mm-hmm. Paddling the kayak sounds really nice right about now. It's evening time. Oh, man.
As long as the wind's dying down.
Right, yeah.
Or you're going with it at your back.
It's speeding you along down the river.
Yeah.
It's important, and I feel a lot of that comes from the isolation, and maybe people feel they don't have enough time to gather others to be on the same frequency, or they have to, they have a work schedule, or they, have only so many hours where they're allowed out of the care facility. Or how would we, as a community, integrate that and give more time to facilitating or activating those activities with more people, so we don't feel alone and so that we feel supported?
Well, yeah, it's a challenge because I know that some of the assisted living facilities do have active, they have programs for activity and so forth for people living there, but within the community as a whole, walking tends to be probably the most accessible thing people can do. And I guess a way to kind of integrate a couple of things into just a simple walking practice is to invite a friend, so that you're talking, you're walking, you're experiencing nature, and forming, having a partner or maybe a couple of people join you. A lot of times those are difficult things to facilitate with older adults because sometimes pace is an issue. Some people walk faster than others, or some people have some genuine physical issues that, they might not be able to go off of a paved surface. We want to be reasonably safe about what we're doing too. So it's kind of a tricky thing, and I don't know how to get more community members involved in that kind of thing. I mean, we have people that walk dogs for the Humane Society. That's another, outlet for getting some exercise, doing something good for some animals.
Yeah.
So there are ways to do it, but you have to make the effort. That's the bottom line.
And that is very true. The effort part of taking action and making it available, or even if it's 30 minutes, if they can call a friend, because then you have the buddy system, then it's safer. And
you have accountability,
right?
Which is huge.
It is.
Yeah.
I found that just with smoothie making. I had a friend that wasn't feeling very well, and I suggested that they have a smoothie, and they didn't have a blender. So I had the blender. We started making the smoothies, and not only did it improve his smoothie drinking ability, it improved mine because I wasn't normally doing that on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, the buddy system, just giving a call.
Right.
Or an email or a text.
Right. And that's, that little step is enough to really significantly support somebody's efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Just showing up.
That's the way to do it. Just show up and it will evolve. There's a sidewalk, when you talk about walking, there's the sidewalk that's at Sports Haven.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I don't know how new it is, but it's kind of new. And I have, as an end-of-life doula and a yogi, I bring some of my friends, my clients, out to that sidewalk. And they're in their 90s. And I'm thinking to myself, why is, with the environment that we're in, with our community that tends to be with, quite a few care facilities in the neighborhood, I'm asking the community, why is that not a superhighway of walkers and wheelchairs?
Yeah. Well, I suppose some of it is staffing issues, because a lot of these people can't move independently.
Mm-hmm.
So it requires being transported, if they are not ambulatory, if they need wheelchair assistance. So it has to become part of their care, their overall care management.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that a lot of these facilities are very understaffed and overworked or stressed.
Right. And it would be a stress alleviator for the care workers also to have 1 hour, 30, I think it literally is about 15 minutes to get them in the car, drive them there within our community range, 30 minutes walking up and down the sidewalk, and then 15 minutes to get them back. It's like an hour round trip. And I would, encourage that, somehow we call them, grab a buddy, and get out there.
Well, like I said, I think that's certainly a worthy goal, and I don't know what the constraints would be as far as some of these facilities, but certainly for the general population, people taking the initiative to grab a neighbor or check in on somebody who's living alone, and trying to get them out, at least out of the house, even if they're just walking in front of their own place.
Right.
A little bit, or in their neighborhood if it's safe. Yeah.
Yeah. We are really lucky here with the safety level of our community. I've felt for the last, I'm new. I've only been here 4.5 years. And it feels particularly safe. We have a lot of law enforcement, and I feel safe walking almost any hour.
Right.
And we have all the hiking trails too, all the outdoor trails.
Even better.
Yeah, right.
Get out away from the traffic and the noise, and
it brings a sense of peacefulness when you're out there in the nature. With our significance of peacefulness as a peaceful activity such as walking, we have a question of, what is the significance of peaceful support to you?
I guess I need a little bit of help with that in terms of when I understand what peaceful is, and I think I understand what support is, but I'm not sure how in the context of this conversation, help me out a little bit there.
Well, you go ahead and you tell us what peaceful is to you and what support is, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, to me, peaceful is a state of mind where we feel calm. We're not stressed out. We're present. We're aware of what we're doing. We're not distracted by devices and all these screens and everything else. So to me, that's kind of a state of peace, and in taking in the more ambient, natural sounds as opposed to having earbuds in and so forth. I mean, I love music, but I find a great deal of peace in just simple, quiet solitude. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are afraid, so to speak, to be with themselves. And so that would be a thing to encourage people to give it a try. Put those earbuds down and just try hanging out for a while in a natural setting and enjoying that process. As far as support, I mean, that's whether it's a neighbor supporting you or a family member or an actual paid caregiver. I mean, those are all potential avenues of support for helping people have an active, healthy life.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that is a lot of our, I guess it's the mindset and the personal goals. You know, some people, I have no idea how, but it just doesn't even faze them. And I think until they try it or until they have that nudge of support to show them a peaceful way of living, that there are other options out there. Like you say, put the earbuds down, go listen to the river. And there's so many options that sometimes we forget because we're inundated and we're smothered with technology, which is a fun thing.
Well, it's certainly a first world problem that we have. And, there's those technologies they can be useful tools, but they can also keep us from ourselves. Mm-hmm. In finding out who we are and how we really feel as we're out in the world. This, like you said, the constant bombardment. It used to just be emails, and then texting came along, and it becomes almost like an extension of a job just to keep up with the so-called communication. And I find it ironic that with all this ability to communicate, you still see families going into a restaurant, family of four, everybody pulls out their phone, nobody's talking to each other, but they're all texting or whatever. And it's a fascinating thing to observe, but I don't think it's a very healthy practice. I think it's something that I'm sure there's a lot of families that are starting to realize that, there's a time and a place for those technologies, but there's also a very important time to be with your family or your significant other or just friends in general and talking.
A sense of decorum.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people have no idea. And it becomes... It's, eating is a special time of health and wellness and a way of staying healthy. That practice in itself, like if it's distracted, like you're saying with cell phones and they're not even paying attention to their company, we would get in trouble as the kids if we had anything at the table.
Yeah. So
it's unique to see that this is accepted and everybody's doing it because it disrupts the digestive system. And there's a whole, you could tell us about that, like a whole line of issues that happen when we're not focusing on the people around us or the food that we're eating while we're eating it. Right.
Well, just taking the time to eat slowly. I mean, this has been a challenge for me forever. Mm-hmm. I will admit that. I tend to eat faster. It shocks me sometimes. I don't realize I'm doing it, and I look around and everybody else has still got food on their plate, and I'm looking for seconds.
Right.
So it's hard to slow down sometimes and acknowledge the food for what its true essence is, and that's to nourish us. Mm-hmm. Yes, we want it to taste good, but unfortunately, processed foods, junk foods, the manufacturers of these food-like products know where we live. Mm-hmm. Sugar, salt, and fat. The brain's wired for it. It wants it. And so as long as it's hitting those three buttons, we think we're filling ourselves with something that's adequate, but in a lot of cases is nutritionally void. And I think having the mindset or the state of mind while you are eating, to be grateful for the food, first of all, not only the plants or animals that provided it, but the people that brought it to you. So it's really an opportunity for a real act of gratitude, I guess.
Very much so. And the effort, that brings up another overall wellness and health point is the food when we do get it, like as we talked about from the beginning, the quality of it versus the quantity. And I had a zucchini gifted to me from a super special garden, and it was huge, and I was able to eat that zucchini for almost a month, and it stayed perfect condition in my refrigerator. And I was so impressed because that is the first time in 4 years that I had any vegetable in my refrigerator last more than 2 days. And when I get my food from the grocery store, it goes bad in 2 days because it's not all the things. I mean, you know about this.
Right. Well, it's, food quality. I mean, there's lots of studies out there to show that, a head of broccoli today, as beautiful as it may look, I've seen numbers like 40% less nutrients in it than, say, in the 1950s. If you're growing crops in depleted soil, the soil is dead, essentially. We've destroyed the biology of the soil, and so all those little microprocesses and enzymes and things that normally would be interacting and become part of the food, now it's just simply this from a seed or whatever that vegetable came from. You're growing it in a medium that's devoid of biology, of life. And yes, it will grow because you're giving it, potassium and these other nutrients that it needs, but it's void of nutrition. And this is a problem.
It certainly...
And an opportunity at the same time for people to, take charge and grow some of their own foods. I'm actually part of a permaculture group that we do presentations all the time on converting, growing food, not lawns, is sort of the theme. So that everybody on any scale, whether you just have a small patio and some containers to grow in, or you actually have a little bit of dirt or a couple of raised beds, it's an opportunity to grow some of your own food, and the satisfaction of that and the quality difference that you can literally taste.
That is so marvelous. I just watched a YouTube on that about growing food, not lawns, and how people all around us, hopefully all around us, but in many urban areas that have that cute little lawn, they're converting it into raised beds.
Yes.
And so how do people in our community get in touch with the permaculture group to do that? Or is there a way to build support for that?
Yeah. The group I belong to is called Wild Rivers Permaculture Guild. And the bulk of our members are in Del Norte County, but there's a few of us up here in Brookings that are members. The scalability of permaculture is for just about any living condition. I mean, sprouting seeds on your kitchen counter is an act of growing, and anybody can do that. So you don't, the misconception is a lot of times with this that you need acres and, you have to have some grand plan and a design that's going to just be awesome with all these different varieties of fruits and vegetables and everything. But it doesn't have to be that much at all. So everything is scalable within that context of permaculture.
Can you give the listeners a tip of how they would go from which would be a really simple seed to or bean or to something to sprout? How could they go by that?
Traditionally alfalfa sprouts, everybody's kind of gone for those, but I find that those can be tricky sometimes. If you don't keep them rinsed, they can go bad pretty quickly. They're pretty delicate. I really like sunflower seeds. Mm-hmm. They grow tall and fast, and they can become what we call a microgreen, where once they're 3 or 4 inches tall, they've got lots of chlorophyll in those cotyledons, and you just snip them off and put them in your salad or make them your salad. So I like the larger ones. Lentils are a nice thing to sprout. Those would be kind of the go-to ones.
And you just get literally like a bag of lentils from the grocery store?
Yeah. And
really?
Soak them, lay them out, keep them moist, but you got to keep them drained.
Yeah.
And
I've done mung bean, but
mung beans
didn't know about lentils.
I would tend to, I don't know if there's any scientific basis to my opinion here, but I think staying away from the smaller seeds like alfalfa and radish and so forth, those are all great. Broccoli, they taste great, but I think there's a tendency if they for them to get mold or be more challenging sometimes. You have to really stay on them. The larger seeds tend to be a lot less labor intensive and pretty bulletproof.
All right. Good. And so they would go to the store, get a bag of lentil beans, just regular old lentils.
Soak them overnight
in a pan or in water or
just soak them in water.
Jar.
Just cover them with water and then rinse them. Because all seeds have this compound that you want to get rid of in that first 24 hours. So you soak it and get rid of the phytates, they're called. And then you can put them in a jar. There are sprouting trays you can get, or you can go as far as some microgreens are actually grown on a medium, like a potting soil, and you can grow that way in a tray.
Well, that is very simple, and you just water it, love it, and eat it.
Yeah.
That makes it a lot of fun.
Happens pretty fast.
Good. Is there anything else you want to say to our listeners here at KCIW?
No, thank you for the opportunity, and I want to encourage people to support KCIW. They do a great job in the community, and programs like this hopefully get more information out to people and encourage them to have a healthy lifestyle.
Perfect. A special thank you for all of our listeners out there for all that you do for our communities of Brookings, Harbor, Curry County. Hear from all of our guests more in the future. Hopefully we hope to have Ken on to talk about more wellness and ways of well-being.